So you think you want to be general counsel? But be honest, do you actually know what being a general counsel entails? In this video, I am going to share with you the inside scoop on the GC lifestyle, skill set, and mindset. And stay tuned until the end because I'm going to share my favorite resource for identifying your GC skill set. Welcome back. And if you're new to this channel, I'm Annie Little. I'm an ICF certified coach and a former lawyer. I created this channel for lawyers who are looking for practical guidance on how to land, lead, and succeed in the legal profession and beyond. So let's start by talking about the GC lifestyle. So no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Being general counsel is essentially being on call for the organization or company's problems day and night. And how do we figure out if that's something that you can sustain or something that maybe you're not interested in, aside from just like your gut reaction, right? So if you followed me for any amount of time, you know that I think values are one of the best ways to figure out what it is that we need and want to succeed. So if you've done the values exercise and you've narrowed down your core values to like 8 or fewer, I want you to take a look and I want you to see if you've got any that have to deal with family or work-life balance or autonomy. We should probably talk. So when it comes to your value of family, I'm going to assume that that means you want to spend time with your family. And depending on where you are in your life and the age of your children, and if you're married or not, or all that kind of stuff, that's going to give you some insight into whether or not this is a good time for you to be general counsel, or maybe at a future point in your career. As for work-life balance, this is something that all of us attorneys are striving for. So depending on what that looks like for you, what you need to know about the general counsel role is that it is very demanding. So if you're looking for something that has more balance and less work, general counsel probably isn't going to be that role for you. Now, of course, every general counsel role is different, but these common characteristics tend to hold true. And if autonomy is something that's important to you and one of your top values, one thing to consider when you are general counsel is that you are really tethered to the schedules and the agenda and the overall vision of the C-suite executives. At the same time, you will have some autonomy in terms of directing the legal department and managing the attorneys and legal professionals who work for you. But at the same time, you will still have sort of this, coterie of bosses to answer to. All right, so next let's talk about the general counsel skill set that you will need. So let's first talk about the hard skills that you'll need as a general counsel. First and foremost, legal expertise. And it's not just going to be in a single legal subject matter area. You're going to need a broader knowledge, at least so that you have the ability to issue things in other legal areas where you may not be an expert. But generally speaking, the type of legal expertise you need is like corporate governance, corporate compliance, general compliance, risk management. If there's a particular, depending on the industry that you're in, maybe you need that specific, legal expertise. Litigation for managing outside counsel, privacy is a big one, IP, and like negotiating contracts and just that sort of general business legal knowledge. You're also going to need to understand financial management because you are going to be working with business executives and they're going to be talking about the financials of the company. There may be budgets that you need to deal with, but this is going to be most likely beyond what you would handle in a law firm. So this is something that you would probably want to find other ways to get up to speed, or maybe you had a prior career in business or finance where you can draw from. Business acumen is another element to hard skills that you will want to have because you are not just going to be this lawyer in a corner office just doing like legal stuff. It's general counsel. It's not, specific lawyer. So you're going to need to understand how business operates. You are going to be interacting with different business groups in addition to your own legal department. So you need to have an understanding of how business operates if you're going to be a general counsel. Probably the most important part for general counsel, all other things being equal among candidates, is industry experience. Understanding how the industry of the organization, the company, how it works, who the competitors are. Having that deep understanding of the industry is going to set you apart, and you're just going to be so much better at your job. It's going to be so much easier for you when you have that kind of understanding about the industry at large. And the last hard skill I'm going to mention is cultural sensitivity, because not only are you going to be dealing with working across teams and departments within your organization, but for many organizations, they have international customers, vendors, teams, offices, and it's important for you to understand the cultural environment, I guess we could say, of the places where the people are that you're going to be dealing with. That is a necessary skill for a general counsel. Next, we'll talk about soft skills, one of my favorite topics, and I'm just going to pop up here a list of the top soft skills because these tend to be what every legal employer wants, but just to go down a few. Above all, they need somebody who has good judgment. So that is going to be a soft skill that you will have to demonstrate through experience, your past experience, and then once you're on the job showing them. You will also need to be a good manager, a good communicator. You'll need to be resilient. You'll need to be a self-starter. You will need to be someone who can take accountability. You'll need to be a leader and also a team member who can collaborate. Of course, you're going to need to be a problem solver. And along with that problem solving, the ability to prioritize and focus on what is most important at any given time is key. Now let's talk about the general counsel mindset. Now, this is important to understand because it's very different from the mindset of a law firm lawyer in general. So the first shift in mindset that you'll want to adopt is that of the big picture and broader strategy. Because as general counsel, your organization is going to count on you to anticipate and prepare them for issues that may come up down the road. And a good example of this is, let's say, a regulation that's on the horizon. It's either going to be approved or it has been approved and it's going to be implemented at some point in the future and it's going to impact your organization. So not only do you need to have an awareness of the legal landscape, but then you need to go a step further and think, okay, once this is implemented and it's going to directly affect our company, how are we going to implement necessary changes? And that is something that you would need to plan for in advance, so that when those laws go into effect, those regulations go into effect, your company is already ready to go, all the operations are laid out, and the teams are up to speed on how they need to do things differently. Another mindset shift that's important is that as general counsel, you need to be coming from a place of yes. And what I mean by that is that people think of lawyers as naysayers and deal blockers and responsible for slowing everything down that needs to be done just so much faster. So while I'm saying you need to come from a place of yes, that doesn't mean be a yes person. What it does mean is that when they come to you with an idea, a proposal, asking if they can do something, your instinct might be to say, oh my gosh, you cannot do that. But what you would want to work on is you would want to be saying, yes, I think that we can figure something out. See the difference there? You're not saying, yes, we can totally do that. But you're also not saying, no, we can't do it the way you said that. And another element of the general counsel mindset is having an executive presence. And I know this is sort of abstract and amorphous. It's one of those things where it's like, you know it when you see it. Like think about two attorneys that you may know who are very different, and one who you would think, oh, that person could totally be general counsel, and the other person could not, right? There's probably an element of executive presence in the one that you would have tagged to become GC eventually. And what somebody with executive presence likely has is an aura of confidence that does not bring with it arrogance. And because they are confident, but not like a jackass know-it-all, they are able to communicate with any audience, which is so important as a general counsel, because you're going to be communicating with the C-suite, people who are, higher up in the ranks than you are, people who are similar ranks to you, people who work for you, people who work in other departments, outside vendors, outside counsel. It's very important that you can communicate in a way, you can communicate confidently, but not as a jerk, not condescending. And that, just think about it. When you know somebody like that, it's pretty attractive and you trust them, which is another element of executive presence, is being a trusted advisor. You want to be somebody that people within the organization feel like they can come to you with their questions, with their problems, with their issues. They want to be able to trust you on a personal level, to not tell them they're an idiot, or to not judge them, or to just not be a jerk. And they also trust you to help them and to arrive at a good solution. Now, this isn't to say that you can't have your personality. You can still have a sense of humor if that's something that comes to you. But what's important is that you need to be viewed as a leader who can act in that capacity, and also a member of a team who's able to collaborate and talk to people like they're humans. So that was a lot of information on what it might take to become a general counsel. Now, if you're concerned about the general counsel skill set, especially the soft skills stuff, I have a resource for you. It's free. It's my masterclass, 3 Simple Strategies for Uncovering Any Lawyer's Transferable Skills, and it will help you to see the existing soft skills that you have. And even if you're not exactly sure how those translate, it'll also help you to see how those could translate and transfer to a general counsel role. There's a link to it in the description below. And I know that just like the hundreds of lawyers who have watched that masterclass before you, you are going to be pleasantly surprised when you see just how many skills you already have that are going to get you into that GC role.